Welcome to The Infinite Life with Katische Haberfield. I'd like to take you on a transformative journey, exploring the mysteries of the soul. I hope you enjoy the regression case studies, mediumship interviews, and fascinating discussions that I've had with guests on the podcast. I hope that these answer some of the questions that you might have about life on this planet, on others, and in other dimensions. Thank you for joining me, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. And, most importantly, share with your friends. Namaste. Hi, welcome back to the Infinite Life with Katische Haberfield podcast. I'm your host, Katische Haberfield. And so far this season 14, we have started off with a little bit of poetry. And both of the poems so far have been about fear. Now, fear is something that you can white-knuckle your way through, but fear is also something that can be helped through one of the things that I am a specialist in, which is clinical hypnotherapy and past life regression therapy. Today, what I wanted to give you was a special bonus resource, and I've learned not to mark it as bonus on the podcast players because they put it at the end. And you have to scroll down. So I'm including it in season 14. And in a minute, I'm going to ask that you actually stop listening to this podcast episode unless you specifically are in a position, moving energy, to lay down in a spot that you would not normally associate with sleep, in a nice comfortable chair or on the floor maybe, somewhere where there's no pets, no noisemakers. And you can relax completely because we're going to do an overcoming fear strategy, conversational hypnosis. Now, this is not the complete session that you would do instead of coming to see me. This is something that you would do before you actually visited my website at katische.com and had a look at the page which comes underneath the category of hypnotherapy and past life regression therapy, which I believe says fear and phobias. So why do we do this? Because if you have fears in your life, sometimes you can't even go to a website to open a page about fear. Sometimes, though, the fear is easily corrected by understanding your perceptions of fear. And what we like to distinguish in clinical hypnotherapy is, do you need a general session which is about emotions, and we work through with your subconscious mind to identify points in your life where a fear has begun, because it can begin in a single moment. And you can self-hypnotize yourself into believing the strength of the fear is going to control your life. Or is it a phobia? Max is trying to come into the session again. Now, phobias are very different and they require a specialized set of strategy sessions with hypnosis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little section from my website right now. So my job is to help you understand not only the source of your fear, but help you change the way you think, feel, and act around fear so that you no longer suffer the limitations of counterproductive, unnecessary, excessive fear. But let's face it, we need to keep a reasonable, rational, protective element of fear to have the appropriate balance of caution and confidence. Many past life fears and phobias can also be experienced in the present lifetime as related to your original cause of death. So, for example, extreme seasicknesses, and that would be associated with drowning. But the thing we need to think about is that we should check in your conscious mind first to see, is there something that has happened with this lifetime that we can heal before we go to the past life. And let's talk about some of the consequences of fear. If we have a fear of failure, for example, we can make poor decisions. We can focus on survival rather than growth. We can fail to act unless there is a crisis happening in our life. We can feel, monetary greed disguised as ambition. These are just a few things. Sometimes when we fear failure, for example, what we're actually feeling is, for example, if we looked at business or work, retirement, we might be afraid of retirement or termination, loss of job. We might be being politically attacked by colleagues, and we have that fear from a previous job. We may fear appearing too vulnerable or foolish. And we may have imposter syndrome and be underachieving in life. And these are just business examples. Now, common phobias, you can just Google them, but here are some. There's pyrophobia, fear of fire. And in our very first, or was it second episode of the podcast, we had an interview with Ruby, who had a past life fear of fire. You can have fears and phobias to do with public speaking, social phobias, snakes, dogs, sharks, and other animals. You have a fear or a phobia of heights, driving, injections, agoraphobia, claustrophobia, germs, thalassophobia, I can't even say that one, thalassophobia, which is the intense and persistent fear of deep water, like the ocean, sea, or large lakes. Aquaphobia, fear of water. Aerophobia or aviophobia, the fear of flying. Gamophobia, the intense fear or avoidance of making long-term commitments, particularly in romantic relationships. Athagazophobia, the intense or irrational fear of being forgotten or of forgetting someone or something, which also may include a fear of being ignored or being replaced. And the impossible to pronounce cacoraphobia, or haphaiophobia. Have a look on the website, it's hard to pronounce. The abnormal or irrational fear of failure. So the intensity is particularly what we're looking for to distinguish whether something is a fear or a phobia. And so what I want you to listen to is the following fear strategy audio. And once you've listened to it, if you feel that you're looking at something that is incredibly intense, that comes on immediately, you don't even have time to think about it or rationalize it, it's just an immediate subconscious reaction, then please complete the Clinical Hypnotherapy fear intake form. Then I will review your form and determine if you're eligible for an intake call. And then you'll attend the initial intake call and attend 3 to 5 sessions once per week for 3 to 5 weeks, depending upon your needs. What are your needs? Your needs. All sessions are via Zoom or Google Meet if you prefer. And please, sometimes a fear can come up when you are analysing something that you've been recommended by a spirit guide. So, for example, this season after these episodes, we're going to be looking at the mediumship for true wealth sessions that I'm currently casting for. And sometimes we can go through those sessions and we can feel fear. Or even it could be so intense that there might be a phobia come up. And so have a think. And if you get a fear-based reaction, we can actually do just a general set of 3 hypnotherapy sessions and guide you through it. So I just wanted to give you that general discussion before we get into the overfear. Something in this for me, I think. Overcome fear, strategy, conversation, hypnosis, which is coming up right now after the music. I'm putting the interlude music on so that you stop and get comfortable. And most importantly, don't have an animal in the room who could pounce on you. And do not operate machinery or try to drive in the next part of this podcast because it's a hypnosis session. See you next time, where I'll be able to clearly speak and communicate with you.
Welcome to your program, Overcome Fear, strategy that lets you reprogram your mind with the appropriate level of caution and confidence so you can keep the rational, reasonable, protective elements of fear, but no longer suffer the limitations of counterproductive, unnecessary, excess fear. This recording is a form of conversational hypnosis, so settle into a comfortable place where you can relax with your eyes closed. So as you listen to these words, settle in and make yourself comfortable. Take in a deeper breath, then exhale and relax. And when you know that it's safe to do so, close your eyes and continue relaxing. You are here because you've realized automatic, undesired fear responses are a function of the subconscious mind, and hypnosis is a way to access the subconscious and adjust that autopilot so it works for you. You're also here because you have realized how important it is to make a breakthrough in this area for yourself and those around you. Before we get started, let's address 3 questions or doubts people tend to when considering hypnotherapy for fears. First, I've had this extreme fear for an extremely long time. How can it be possible to fix it in a short time? The length of time you've had the phobia isn't the issue or a problem. The issue is the length of time it took to create the phobia, which happened in seconds or minutes. We call this one trial learning. It means you have the ability to change quickly. Now we can use this rapid change ability to work for you instead of against you. Your phobia, fear, or trauma response is not a failing. It's an ability to learn fast that can be harnessed for good. Second objection. I'm afraid to face this fear. Can I trust you not to make it worse? Can I trust you not to trigger it by forcing me to relive it or test it? For example, by throwing a snake at me or whatever? The fact is that you are even inquiring. It shows you have already overcome some fear about facing the fear. We don't use any unconsensual tests. We do use proven, effective techniques. I trust in my process and in my ability to help the appropriate people. We can discuss in your interview your exact situation so we can find out if it's right for you or not. We can then build up your confidence in the process, in your hypnotherapist, and in your own inner ability to be free of excess fear. Third objection is people often think, I don't want to lose all my fear. I want to stay safe and not be reckless. This is a fair point. Our goal is to deal with the excessive, counterproductive element of fear. We don't aim to lose all the fear. We do recognize that all emotions and behaviors have a function. Fear does have some value in protecting us. So we won't get rid of all fear. We can retain some for self-protection, so it's not too much and not too little. So as we set an intention and make a decision, we can be precise with words. Now I'm going to ask you a question that is the key to success. Are you willing to let go of the excessive parts of this fear now? Notice the question is not give up all the fear. That goal is too big. A goal should be no less than we need to get the result, and no more. That goal also sounds too black and white. We're not flicking a switch to go from fear to no fear. We're turning down a dial to have less fear, just enough to be free of excess fear. You don't have to give up the fear altogether, but you do have to be ready, willing, and determined to make a change and be free of excess fear. Are you willing to let go of the excessive parts of this fear now? It may seem an obvious question, but a half-hearted or incomplete response creates a half-hearted or incomplete result. The purpose of this recording is to make sure you have thought it through and come to a complete decision to be free of excess, unhelpful fear. Why would people be half-hearted in deciding to be free of excess fear? There are a number of limiting beliefs and tendencies that are already often programmed into the subconscious. Better safe than sorry. People work harder to avoid 1 unit of pain than to gain 1 unit of pleasure. People tend to prefer the known to the unknown. Our fear is a known, and we tend to stick with something we know, even if it limits us, instead of change to something we don't know, even if it frees us. All these subconscious tendencies are running the show, which is why you are here, because it takes a subconscious intervention to make a change and run things according to your new conscious decision. What compelling reasons can you give your subconscious to break this pattern? You've probably had this fear for a long time, so what compelling reasons can you give your subconscious to break this old pattern? I want you to ask yourself, deep inside, to find powerful reasons why you are ready to overcome the fear that you had. If your answer is, I should let go of the fear, or it would be nice to let go of the fear, or they want me to let go of the fear, think again. Make it more powerful. So let me ask you, what are the top 2 or 3 limitations you'll be free from? What are the limitations you would no longer have to suffer when you decide to be free of excessive fear? Have you avoided things that other people get a lot of pleasure from, and you could have too? Was it embarrassing to have to admit to that limitation? Do you feel bad for your partner or friends or family who get tired of having to put up with your reactions? Has it got to the stage where you realize you could pass this on to your children, so you need to act now for your sake and others? So I'll give you some time now to think of the top 2 or 3 limitations you used to suffer due to excessive fear. What are the limitations you'd like to be free of? What are the top 2 or 3 benefits you will gain? What are the benefits you would enjoy when you decide to let go of excessive fear? Will it benefit you more personally or professionally? Will it improve your relationships? What specific situations can you imagine now? What is your priority area for overcoming fear? You might have a list of fears because fear can have a tendency to generalize, but confidence can generalize too. So pick the fear that had the most impact on your professional livelihood or personal enjoyment of life. As you focus on that, other areas will also benefit automatically. How much is the peak feeling of fear in your priority area out of 10? 7 or 8? It's probably above 5. This number is your benchmark. If you are at a 7 of fear or discomfort, that means you're at a 3 of okay with it. Your goal and our goal is not to go from a 7 down to a 0. Any fear under 5 means your fear has become the minority. For things that do have some risk, a reasonable level of caution might mean keeping it at a 3 or a 4 is reasonable. For other things with a small risk or consequences, a 1 or 2 would make sense. Make sure the priority area you choose is specific. When I ask people what they have a fear of exactly, I often get a vague, generalized answer. For example, people tell me they have a fear of insects. We need to be precise with our language with the subconscious and notice that is inaccurate. There are many tiny insects people are barely aware of and have a 0 out of 10 fear towards. Other insects like mosquitoes provoke irritation at 8 out of 10, but not fear. They will automatically squash the mosquito. They might actually like butterflies. So what kind of insects exactly? Just spiders and big creepy crawlies? Notice the power of language choice in representing insects there. Now think about general fear area. Are there some types of dogs, aeroplanes and flights, heights, smaller spaces, needles and nurses, cars and roads or other situations that you are actually okay with? Acknowledge your strengths and give yourself credit for the things you can do and are okay with. What aspects related to your priority fear already contain elements with a fear or discomfort level at or under 5 out of 10? Now, if you're thinking, this makes sense, but I've had a fear like this for years, I hope it can change, but I'm a bit skeptical. I'm not even sure I even believe that I can change. Well, if that's you, that's fine. Since the majority of people in the world do not have the excessive part of your fear, I am also skeptical. I am very skeptical that your excess fear is an unchangeable ultimate reality. And if you are really so confident about the strength of your fear, it's great that you are confident. We can get that confidence to work for you instead of against you. Sometimes people tell me about fears they have that they will never have to face. You don't like tarantulas. So what? What fears can you drop simply because you'll really never get the chance to practice them, even if you wanted to? So what is actually a pretty good response to have to the excess portion of fears that are possible to encounter in daily life. You've still got a 3 to 4 level of discomfort? So what? Focus on the 6 to 7 level of comfort. Personally, I'm fine with spiders, but if I ended up on some weird reality program with tarantulas, I would probably be 3 out of 10 uncomfortable fear. So what? I'm still 7 out of 10 comfortable, and 3 out of 10 uncomfortable is pretty reasonable. Any less? So I'm happy to keep it at 3 and wouldn't wish it to be less. It would make it less exciting. What's the worst thing that can happen? So once we know we have an accurate answer about what we're afraid of exactly, we need to know, what is the worst thing that can happen? Someone with fear reacts to any spider physically and automatically as if it's one of the very few with deadly poisons, and is a trained assassin committed to losing its own life to take out a human. Looking at it from your current calm perspective, what is the statistical likelihood of a worst-case scenario actually happening? Like a deadly spider bite, a plane crash, falling from a height, meeting a gangster dog, or a doctor or a nurse who has no idea on how to do an injection. Is it a 1% or a 0.1% possibility? I'm acknowledging that it is okay to have a degree of fear according to risk, but at the appropriate small level. If you're saying over 10%, you're probably inflating it to make your conscious mind feel justified. Don't fall for that trick. Sometimes the mind would rather prove itself right than get the right result. You can trick yourself into justifying your fear and keeping it, or making this a time to be really honest and objective, and downgrade the statistical fear as a step on the road to overcoming it. Is that fair enough? So if a friend of yours was giving your worst case scenario a statistical likelihood, what percentage possibility would they give it? Can you decide to adopt their lower percentage for yourself now? You'll get a chance to feel this subconsciously soon. How much of this fear is rational and reasonable? You are allowed a reasonable caution. How much of it, though, do you know consciously is too much? Now, before I help people overcome old fears, they'll often say one thing to me. I shouldn't be afraid. I know it's silly of me. This means people have an intellectual understanding, which of course isn't enough to overcome the fear, because there is something real that you actually feel in the body, regardless of what the conscious mind thinks. The hypnotherapy process involves acknowledging the part of you that felt the fear protected and helped you at some level for some time. But it also lets you tell your subconscious mind that enough is enough now, so you can let go of the excess fear. Appropriate, reasonable fear is helpful. In fact, in one important way, you don't have enough fear. So there is one thing I invite you to be afraid of, is living in fear. Use your fear for you as a motivator. So it's okay to have a fear of missing out on the opportunities to live a full life, because trying to stay totally safe can be actually one of the greatest dangers in life. Enough is enough. Are there times you have reacted again and again to a fear you know does not make sense, but you do it anyway, to the point where you find your automatic reaction embarrassing or annoying? Can you think of times you felt embarrassed or annoyed by the fear you had then? Part of the decision to be free of the excess fear can also be a strong sense or voice inside that says, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Isn't that right? The goals we set ourselves and the questions we ask ourselves have a powerful subconscious influence. Have you asked yourself, why am I afraid? Or why can't I stop being afraid? These questions are part of the problem, not part of the solution. If you ask an unhelpful question, your mind can go and find a bunch of unhelpful reasons to justify why you can't. Instead, you can ask, what can I do to bring more calm, clarity, confidence, and ease into these situations? This new rephrased question is one of many subtle yet powerful subconscious shifts we can take in approaching the issue, which we will take to another level in the next hypnosis part of the program. For now, you can feel good knowing that you must already have realized that excess fear is a product of unhelpful subconscious tendencies, so the solution is getting the subconscious to be helpful and work for us instead of against us. Your hypnosis program marks a turning point and a wonderful new stage in your life. It will play out day by day, but now you imagine a time over a year or more where you've gotten used to living free of excess fear and are now totally unrestricted in any doing activities and more calm, clear, confident, and at peace in your state of being. You have been patient and persistent and you've been rewarded with the many benefits that come with overcoming that old excess fear from the past. Can there be a lightness, like a breath, like breathing in a light and healing, cleansing white energy that can be relaxing and rejuvenating? What else do you notice about that your life has become? Notice the growing sense of happiness, confidence, and well-being that becomes now a natural and normal state of being for you now and for life. You can listen to this strategy recording once or twice a week for 1 to 2 weeks. You can listen to the hypnosis recording once a day, 5 days per week for 1 to 2 weeks. For now, you can continue on patiently and persistently. You can feel great that you have the insight to use the power of your subconscious mind, so you can go beyond the limitations of counterproductive, unnecessary, excess fear and enjoy all the opportunities to fully enjoy life.